On October 1, 1960, Nigeria celebrated a momentous occasion independence from British colonial rule. This day marked the end of a long and arduous journey towards self-determination, a journey filled with both struggle and hope. The streets were alive with jubilant celebrations as people from all walks of life came together to witness the birth of a new nation. After decades of struggle, the nation could finally chart its own course. The fight for independence had been a collective effort, involving countless individuals who had sacrificed much for the cause. From the early resistance movements to the more organized political campaigns, the road to freedom was paved with determination and resilience. The air was thick with hope and anticipation for a brighter future. People believed that independence would bring about a new era of prosperity and progress. There was a palpable sense of unity and shared purpose, as Nigerians looked forward to building a nation that reflected their dreams and aspirations. Nigeria, a land of diverse cultures and vast resources, seemed poised for greatness. The country's rich cultural heritage and natural wealth were seen as the foundation upon which a strong and vibrant nation could be built. From the bustling cities to the serene countryside, every corner of Nigeria held the promise of a bright future. The world watched with bated breath as this sleeping giant awoke on the African continent. International observers were keenly interested in Nigeria's progress, seeing it as a potential leader in the region. The global community recognized the significance of Nigeria's independence not just for the country itself, but for the entire African continent. Nigeria was divided into three main regions: the North, the East, and the West. Each region had its own unique characteristics and played a crucial role in the nation's identity. The diversity of these regions was both a strength and a challenge, as the new nation sought to forge a unified identity. Each region had its own distinct cultural identity and political aspirations. The North, East, and West were home to various ethnic groups, each with its own traditions and customs. This rich tapestry of cultures added to the vibrancy of Nigeria, but also required careful navigation to ensure harmony and cooperation. The North, predominantly Muslim, was the largest and most populous. It was a region known for its rich history and strong sense of community. The people of the North played a significant role in the country's political landscape, bringing their unique perspectives and values to the national dialogue. The East, largely Igbo and Christian, was known for its entrepreneurial spirit. The Igbo people were renowned for their industriousness and innovation, contributing significantly to the economic development of the region. Their vibrant markets and thriving businesses were a testament to their resilience and resourcefulness. The West, home to the Yoruba people, boasted a rich cultural heritage. The Yoruba were known for their artistic expressions, from music and dance to literature and sculpture. This region was a cultural hub, where traditions were celebrated and preserved, adding to the nation's diverse cultural landscape. Despite their differences, these regions came together under the banner of a united Nigeria. The leaders of the newly independent nation worked tirelessly to promote a sense of national unity and cohesion. They understood that the strength of Nigeria lay in its diversity, and they sought to harness this diversity for the common good. The early years of independence were marked by a sense of optimism and national unity. There was a collective belief that Nigeria could overcome any challenges and achieve greatness. The spirit of independence inspired people to work together towards a common goal, fostering a sense of pride and patriotism. Nigeria adopted a parliamentary system of government with Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa as the first prime minister. His leadership was seen as a symbol of the new era, guiding the nation through its formative years. The government focused on establishing democratic institutions and promoting good governance. The government embarked on ambitious development projects aiming to improve the lives of its citizens. From building infrastructure to expanding education and healthcare, these initiatives were designed to lay the foundation for a prosperous future. The focus was on creating opportunities for all Nigerians regardless of their background. Nigeria's future seemed bright, full of promise and potential. The nation's youth were particularly hopeful, eager to contribute to the country's development. There was a sense of collective responsibility, as people from all regions and walks of life came together to build a better Nigeria. However, beneath the surface of this newfound unity, simmered tensions that would soon boil over. The challenges of nation-building were complex, and not everyone agreed on the best path forward. Political, ethnic, and regional differences began to resurface, threatening the fragile unity that had been achieved. The seeds of discord had been sown, and Nigeria's journey towards lasting peace and prosperity was about to face its first major test. The nation would need to navigate these turbulent waters with wisdom and resilience as it sought to fulfill the promise of independence and build a future that all Nigerians could be proud of. The optimism that accompanied Nigeria's independence was short-lived. Beneath the surface of national unity, deep-seated ethnic and regional tensions festered. The country's three main regions, the North, East, and West, harbored political differences and competed for resources and power. The northern region, larger in size and population, dominated the political landscape. The Northern People's Congress, the dominant party in the North, held considerable sway in the federal government. This dominance fueled resentment in the eastern and western regions, who felt marginalized and underrepresented. Adding fuel to the fire were economic disparities. The discovery of oil in the Niger Delta, primarily in the eastern region, heightened tensions. The eastern region felt that the distribution of oil revenue, controlled by the federal government, was unfair and favored the North. The political climate became increasingly volatile. Elections were marred by rigging and violence. Corruption was rampant, further eroding public trust in the government. The different regions drifted further apart, each suspicious of the other's motives and intentions. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of Nigeria. The early hours of January 15, 1966, marked a turning point in Nigeria's history. As the first light of dawn broke over the bustling city of Lagos, few could have predicted the seismic events that were about to unfold. A group of young army majors led by Major Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu staged a daring coup d'etat. These officers, driven by a vision of a better Nigeria, believed that drastic action was necessary to steer the country away from the brink of collapse. The coup plotters, disillusioned with the corruption and instability that plagued the nation, sought to create a more unified and progressive Nigeria. They were frustrated by the rampant corruption, ethnic tensions, and political instability that had become the norm. Their hope was to establish a government that would be free from the influence of corrupt politicians and regional biases. The coup was swift and brutal. Military vehicles rolled through the streets and soldiers took strategic positions across key locations. The plotters moved with precision, ensuring that their targets were quickly neutralized. Prime Minister Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, along with several other high-ranking officials, including the premier of the northern region, Sir Ahmadu Bello, were assassinated. These assassinations were not just a blow to the government, but also to the hopes of many Nigerians who looked up to these leaders. The coup sent shockwaves throughout the nation and beyond. News of the coup spread rapidly and the reactions were immediate and intense. People gathered in the streets, some in support, others in fear and uncertainty about what the future held. The coup, while seemingly successful at first, quickly unraveled. The initial euphoria among the plotters gave way to confusion and disarray as they struggled to maintain control. The military, which had been seen as a unifying force, began to fracture along ethnic lines. The coup plotters, mainly of Igbo origin, were accused of carrying out an ethnic agenda, targeting leaders from the northern and western regions. This perception, whether accurate or not, fueled deep-seated suspicions and animosities among Nigeria's diverse ethnic groups. This perception fueled widespread anger and resentment, particularly in the north, where reprisals against the Igbo population began. The violence that ensued was brutal and widespread, leading to a significant loss of life and property. The coup, intended to unify the nation, had the opposite effect. Instead of bringing Nigerians together, it deepened the divisions that already existed. Ethnic and regional loyalties were now stronger than ever, and the dream of a united Nigeria seemed more distant than ever. It deepened ethnic and regional divisions, pushing Nigeria closer to the brink of chaos and civil war. The event set off a chain reaction that would lead to years of conflict and suffering, culminating in the Nigerian Civil War, also known as the Biafran War. The events of January 15, 1966, would cast a long shadow over Nigeria's future, shaping its political landscape for decades to come. The legacy of that day is still felt in Nigeria's political and social fabric, a reminder of the fragility of unity and the enduring impact of history. The January 1966 coup left Nigeria reeling in shock and uncertainty. The sudden and violent overthrow of the government was a seismic event that sent shockwaves throughout the nation. People from all walks of life were left in a state of confusion and fear, unsure of what the future held for their country. With the assassination of Prime Minister Balewa and other key leaders, a dangerous power vacuum emerged. The loss of these pivotal figures created a leadership void that was felt across the political spectrum. The absence of a clear and stable government left the country vulnerable to further unrest and instability. The nation held its breath, bracing for the unknown. Citizens were gripped by anxiety as rumors and speculation about the future spread like wildfire. The streets, once bustling with activity, became eerily quiet as people stayed indoors, fearing the worst. In the aftermath of the coup, Major General Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi, the head of the Nigerian army, assumed control of the government. His rise to power was seen as a beacon of hope by some, while others viewed it with suspicion. Ironsi's military background and decisive actions were intended to bring order to the chaos, but his leadership was immediately put to the test. Ironsi, an Igbo, faced the daunting task of restoring order and stability to a deeply divided nation. The ethnic tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface now threatened to boil over. Ironsi's challenge was not just to govern, but to heal the rifts that had been exacerbated by the coup. He sought to reassure the nation that the coup was not ethnically motivated and promised to establish a unified and strong Nigeria. In his speeches, Ironsi emphasized the need for national unity and the importance of moving forward together as one people. His vision was of a Nigeria where all ethnic groups could coexist peacefully and work towards common goals. However, Ironsi's efforts to consolidate power and implement his vision for a unitary state were met with suspicion and resistance, particularly from the north. Northern leaders and citizens were wary of his intentions, fearing that his policies would marginalize their region and diminish their influence in the national government. His abolition of the federal system of government and the unification of the civil service were seen as attempts to centralize power and marginalize the North. These moves were perceived as a direct threat to the autonomy and interests of the northern regions, leading to increased tensions and distrust. The fragile peace that followed the January coup was short-lived. The initial calm that had settled over the country quickly gave way to renewed unrest and conflict. The divisions within the country were too deep to be easily bridged, and the underlying issues that had led to the coup remained unresolved. The coup had unleashed forces that were difficult to control. The military's intervention in politics had set a dangerous precedent, and various factions within the country began to vie for power. The situation was further complicated by the involvement of external actors who sought to influence the outcome of Nigeria's political crisis. The specter of ethnic violence loomed large, and the nation teetered on the precipice of further turmoil. The fear of widespread violence and civil war was palpable, as ethnic groups armed themselves and prepared for the worst. The fragile fabric of Nigerian society was being stretched to its breaking point. The stage was set for another dramatic chapter in Nigeria's turbulent post-independence history. The events of 1966 were just the beginning of a long and difficult journey for the nation. As Nigeria grappled with its identity and future, the lessons of this tumultuous period would continue to shape its path forward.